As you already know, Brandon Aiyuk and the San Francisco 49ers are reportedly back at the negotiation table talking about all this. But Brandon Aiyuk had some thoughts on this, and he actually responded to me directly. And we actually found out about this live on stream. It turned out to be quite an entertaining stream, one to remember for sure. I was doing my best cherry tomato impersonation the entire time because, I was just caught off guard by it and didn't really understand at first what he was saying, but I think I'm a little bit more clear about what Brandon Ayuk was saying. So let's take a look at the comments, shall we? Oh, good. Goodness gracious, what a good time. So we had shared the post of the Tom Palacero report. I'll show you a direct screenshot from it. You can see above it's the Tom Palacero one where he's talking about the 49ers have made a renewed effort in recent days to strike a long-term deal with 49ers. Brandon Aiyuk mentions that the Pittsburgh Steelers are still in the mix and all these different types of things, right? Okay. So that's the context. So Brandon Aiyuk responds, says my name directly, says, Brad, Niners be in the media every day, LOL. It's two options out there. Pick one and stop dropping reports. Simple. Well, at first, when I read that, because we were on stream and it was kind of positioned that way, where it was like, Brad, Ayuk just called you out on your Instagram page. And I said, what? And so that's how I read it the first time, like through that lens. And I think if you read it and you say, it does sound like at first, like he could be telling me to basically stop re- like commenting and reposting on every single thing that's going on the situation. Um, but as you kind of like look into it and kind of break it down a little bit more, which we'll try to do, let's do it. All right. I feel more confident now that he isn't telling me to stop posting about this, but this is what I do believe. He is saying you can let me know if you agree or disagree in the chat. So let's break it down. He says Niners be in the media every day. LOL. So effectively saying the Niners are using guys like Tom Palacero, Jordan Schultz, Diana Rossini. These are the people, Mike Garafolo, who have been presenting these reports on this situation, the last couple days specifically. So the way that I'm now interpreting that is Niners have been in the media every day. So he's basically saying the Niners are the one who's feeding all of these reports out there. And he's basically saying and simplifying it to saying it's two options out there. Pick one and stop dropping reports. Simple. So when he's saying two options, the options are the options that Tom Palacero had listed in the original tweet, saying the situation is fluid and other teams, including the Pittsburgh Steelers, are still in the mix. So by Tom Pelissero saying there's other teams, including the Steelers, he's essentially saying that there could be more than one. What I'm interpreting from this is Brandon Aiyuk is saying there's literally two options. I either get traded to the Steelers or you sign me to the extension that I want. That is what I am reading from this. It's two options out there. Pick one. So, meaning trade me or sign me. Pick one and stop dropping reports through Palacero, through Ian Rappaport, through Garafolo, through Deanna Rossini, through whoever. Simple. So, yes, initially, when I read it and under the context, it did sound like he was telling me to stop reporting because I get it. I've made quite a few videos on this topic, as you all know, and I was like, who could he be talking to? He can't be talking to me. He's not talking to me, is he? No, but in all seriousness, if you were on live, because we found this out on live that he had commented this, and it was one of the more memorable lives I've ever done. like I said, my face was bright red because I thought he was calling me out and telling me to stop posting about it. But again, taking a step back, kind of analyzing it a little bit further, I think it's clear what he's saying. And if he was taking a shot with me, I would stand on it. But I don't believe he is necessarily taking a shot at me. I think he's more basically clapping back at all of this stuff that keeps being played out in the media. Basically saying, like, the Niners are in the media every day. It's two options: Steelers or you sign me. Pick one. Stop dropping these reports. It's that simple. Does that make sense? That is how I've come to interpret this situation, while initially believing he was just like, Brad, quit yapping. So it's been a whirlwind because it's been absolutely picked up by everyone. Tom Palacero put it out there. Ian Rappaport retweeted it. Obviously, this particular image is from the 33rd team. Bleacher Report picked it up. FanDuel, like it's everywhere. It's honestly the first time we've really heard from Brandon Aiyuk on this situation since probably he did his last podcast. I think it was the Pivot podcast, was really the last we had heard. And he has been relatively quiet. Now, obviously, he had discussed that, or not discussed, but he had requested a trade publicly, but it wasn't directly through him. That just came through the media. But we haven't heard from him. We haven't heard from him since the pivot. So this is the first time that he's really spoke on this. And so that's why, like, everyone clearly has been hearing from the 49ers side of things through the media. And this is his opportunity to be like, listen, guys, it's not that difficult. It's really simple. I was never going to the Pats. I was never going to the Browns. I was never going anywhere. It's two destinations where I want to go. It's either you trade me to the Pittsburgh Steelers or you sign me. And this actually presents a very peculiar situation for the San Francisco 49ers, where it actually looks like Brandon Aiyuk has some leverage here, and honestly quite a bit, because I think what we've determined is that one of the reasons why a trade hasn't gone through is because the 49ers would not come out on top in a trade. In order to move the Steelers or Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers, I do not think they're going to get what they want in return. As we've heard, it's been reported, the 49ers want a receiver in return. The Steelers aren't giving up Pickens, and it doesn't sound like there's any other wide receivers of value or that they're willing to give. And so the 49ers need a receiver because, like I've talked about at training camp, they need another wide receiver like Brandon Aiyuk. So that we've heard the rumblings that they've been poking around Cortland Sutton. We've presented hypotheticals about Devontae Adams and T. Higgins and just other wide receivers where the 49ers trade Brandon Aiyuk to the Steelers. They take that compensation and they go and trade for another wide receiver. That would be really the only way that I think you could rationalize a trade from a football standpoint, regarding this whole situation. So I think part of the problem of why he hasn't been traded is because they haven't been able to find that package. They haven't been able to find a situation where they come out on top. I keep referencing the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. They were willing to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo while they had Trey Lance on the roster, while they just drafted Brock Purdy, Nate Sudfeld, paid him $2 million. They were willing to just keep Jimmy Garoppolo in the locker room off to the side while they searched for trade partners. And ultimately, they didn't find one and they kept him. And that ultimately turned out to be a good thing because Trey Lance gets hurt, Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, he plays, and ultimately Jimmy gets hurt and Brock comes in. Now, the 49ers still recouped value from Jimmy Garoppolo because they were able to at least get a compensatory pick in return. They were able to win some games with him. So I liken that to this situation. if the 49ers aren't going to get a value where they feel comfortable with in winning a trade or feeling like they've at least like had a wash, I don't think they're going to do it. And so I think that's the particular situation right now is it doesn't feel like the 49ers will win a trade with the Steelers. And so if there really are only two options where it's trade me to the Steelers or pay me, and Ayuk is like, well, I don't know if you guys will even trade me to the Steelers because I don't think you guys are going to get what you're looking for. So then pay me and pay me what I'm looking for. It actually, if you're looking at it from that perspective, it actually kind of presents itself as some pretty substantial leverage for Brandon Ayuk to, because he's obviously dictated the terms of this whole trade situation. Said no to the Pats, said no to the Browns, and he only wants to go to the Steelers. He controls where he goes because he has to sign a contract extension. No team is going to do what the New York Jets have done and traded for Hassan Reddick, who has been a holdout the entire time because when one of the reasons why the Eagles traded Reddick is because he wanted a new contract and they didn't want to pay him. Well, the Jets traded for Hassan Reddick thinking that they would figure this out, but they haven't. And Hassan Reddick has not even practiced, and it's almost the regular season. So no other team is going to trade for Brandon Aiyuk without him signing a contract. They're just not going to do it. It doesn't make sense. So this saga, I think, takes on another turn. Obviously, hearing from Brandon Aiyuk for the first time. But what's your interpretation? Do you kind of see what I'm saying, or was he like, Brad, stop yapping? You're yapping too much. Could be, could not be. I don't know. You tell me in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.